Okay, good evening, guys. I want to wish you happy, Merry Xmas in arrears and a Happy New Year by anticipation. Okay, so hope you enjoyed your Boxing Day. As you can see, today is the 27th of December 2018, and I believe we must have understood the previous tutorials. So today we are going to look at the next tutorial, which is PHP includes and requires and PHP functions. Without wasting much time, we'll look at includes and require. But before that, let me give you a brief. Let me write something here. Let me create a new file. Let me call this file1.php. Okay. Now, when we talk of PHP include, we use the include. We use include when we simply want to insert or call a file that we want to use. And include is not when you use the include function and the file is not available, your code simply continues executing itself. Whereas if you use the require function, we use it to call a file that is very important, and if the file does not exist, your program simply exits. Your program stops running. So it's advisable to use require when that particular file that you want to call, that particular file that you want to include, that particular file that you need is very important to the running of your program. And if you want to use the include, it's simply the syntax is like this: include and then file name dot php semicolon. If you want to use require, you use require file name and file name dot php and semicolon. Remember, I said every PHP statement must end with semicolon, so that's how you use it. Now let's call this our file. Let's call this our file. This our file is one.php. So inside this one, want to echo something. The name of this file is 1, and then we end here. We want to create another file which we call 2.php, and then here we say echo 2.php is the name of this file. Okay, I've told you break to bring to a new line, and then we say echo 500 plus 400. Let's just assume something like that, and then we save. Okay, now we want to create a third file. Just be following. We want to create a third file called header.php, and we say echo welcome to PHP include and require tutorial. Okay, and we close it. We create another file, just because include and require simply means having different files and then calling them. We'll call this one footer.php, where we can just say echo copyright 2018 OOP course. Okay, now we want to create the last file, which we call body.php. I'll say echo this is a tutorial explaining how to use the PHP includes and require functions. Okay, so now we have 5 files: the body, footer, header 1 and 2. So what we simply want to do is we want to call this body file. This is a file we want to open. These are the files. We will open body. So body simply says this is a tutorial explaining how to use PHP include and require function. Now this is the body file. We have a header file. We want to call this header. We want to call this header file. So we come now here. We want the header file to show here. We'll put include. Include the name of the file, header. I see this is an intelligent IGE. As we write include header, we refresh. It simply says welcome to PHP include and require tutorials. Okay, let me just add something here to make it oh no. Okay, so this is the header file. Now let's come back to this, our body code. Now if you want this header file, this is the position I wanted the content of that header file to display. If you want it to maybe display here, it's now under that one. That's where it's going to display, but I rather want it to be here. Okay, so now I want to include the footer.php, and then you see now that this is the footer. Copyright. Okay, let me push it back to so you really realize that we have the header here, the body, and the footer. That is the include. Now let's look at this. This is a main file. You realize we just included the first file, the second file, the first file and the second file, and the content of this body, and then it has displayed everything. Now if we comment just this echo, we don't want this echo to show, and you see that this is the header and the footer. Okay, let's come back. So that's just how the include works. Now assuming we, instead of writing header, we write header X. We know header X does not exist here. We've written header X and then we refresh. What happens? This is the header. You just see an error that no such file or directory, blah 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 and so on. But after this header file, we have this is a tutorial. This is a tutorial. So you see, this is a tutorial. Your program keeps running. It continues running. But now assuming we use but require here, require, and then we run, you realize your program has stopped working. Nothing is showing anymore. It means that at this point we use the require. Since, like we said here, the require, very important, it exits or stop, your program exits or stops running. That's why you realize that at this point all of this code or the code below this require has not been executed, simply because this file does not execute itself, or this file is not found. So you simply use the require when the file you want to include or the file you want to call is very important to the execution of your program. And then you can use include, maybe the file is not that important. So we come back again. This is the require. The file is not found. Everything below it, below that line, stops executing. Now assuming we've used the right file, require this, and then we execute, you see everything goes. Now assuming at this point we want to do require one.php, we want to include this file. Now the file says the name of the file is 1. So let's put it like this. Now want to include just this one.php file. We want to require it. We refresh. Then this is this, the name of the file is 1. It's required. Now assuming instead of writing 1, we put 11, which means that file at this point the file does not exist. You see path not found. So we refresh it. You realize that this first line has been executed, but everything below it has not been executed, simply because this file is not found. It executes this one, but since this file is not found, the program exits and everything below it does not execute. So you see, you find something like no such file or directory and so on. This is a required file, 1.php. The file is not found, so the program stops. Now assuming you use now but include that 1.php, we know this file still does not exist. It will simply tell you that the file does not exist, but it continues running your program. So that's the difference between include and require. So you have to know when to use which of them. So I believe this is a very simple example to demonstrate how to use the two of them. Okay, so now I want to run this one, and then you realize you have 900, this is, and so on. So it's like including different files. You can even decide to put all of this in a different file, and then you just call the files. You can design your project where you have a header, a footer, a body, a left menu, a right menu, a logo, and so on. Then you just call only the files, and then your project is being executed. So you realize that only this, we have just 5 lines, but it's executing all of this, whereas all of these are found in different codes as well. Yeah, there's also another function called the include one or the require ones. Include ones, we have the include ones and then the require ones. Now the ones and so on, it simply means that it is going to, your program simply checks if the file has been executed, or if the file has been included, or if the file is required. If the file is required once, it simply does not try to include or require the file again. It simply uses the file that has been required. So that's the difference. But I would usually recommend you use the require or the include, depending on the nature of the problem. Okay, so we'll move now. This one is validated. I just hope it's really understood. Oh, me, I like clean work, baby. Anyway, Joe, see. Okay, so the next one we are going to do now is PHP functions. PHP functions. So come back now to our tutorials. This is where we find ourselves. So the next one we are going to do now is PHP functions. So let me close back this one, and then I don't know how we'll save this one. Anyway, let me come back. Okay, let me just call it fxn or function. Functions. Okay, so now when we talk of a function, I know like there are some of you here that are novices in programming. It's your first time of seeing programming and so on. A function is simply a block of statement that can be separated, that can be used separately from a program. It's simply a block of statement. Let me write function is a block of statement that can be used separately from a program, or separately in a program, something like that. Now PHP, the power of PHP, that's the strength of PHP, simply lies in the functions that it has. PHP has more than 2,000 built-in functions. Excuse me, let me move my watch. PHP has more than 2,000 built-in functions. That's the power of PHP lies with its functions. Now, for example, this is an intelligent IDE we are using. Now, let's say we want a function that says array. You really realize that just by typing array, we have all these functions. These are different functions that has to do with arrays. You see, if you look at this scroll bar, the bar is really too long. Only array functions. If you have if you want something like PDO, okay, let me say this famous stuff, my SQL, though they are depreciated, but this is just to show you how the amount of functions that PHP itself has. When you start typing a function, let's say okay, let me just say include, you already see all the stuff that so the power of PHP lies within its function. And you can also design or code your own function and use in your website, your web application, your assignment, and so on, even your small stuff. And a function can only be executed when it is called. Note, this is very important. Functions can only be executed when they are called. Yeah, if you don't call a function, that function will never be executed. Even if you've written a function and then you execute a code where that function is found inside, or a page where that function is found inside, if you don't call that function will never come to life. The function will just be there and then will be dying. Now, how does how is the skeleton of a function structured? We have something like this: a function name, and then you have your bracket. You open and close, and code to run, and then you close. This is one type of a function where we have the function, that's the keyword function, and then the name you like to call your function. You open and close bracket, the code you want to run. We have another type where you have the function name, then you have what parameters, let me call it parameter 1, parameter 2, up to parameter n, depending on what you want to write inside. The code to execute, and then you close your function. This is a different type of function. We have another structure type which is like function name, with or without a parameter, it depends on you. The code to execute, a return value, and then you close your function. So they are different here. This third part, the function name, it can be a void function, a function without any parameter, and it has a return value, or it can still be function with parameters with still a return value. So let's try something very simple. We want to write a function to display a simple message. We write function, the name of the function, show my message. Remember, we said the function should have the keyword function and then the name of the function, show my message, the code to execute, echo I am learning PHP functions. So this is the function, and the file is function.php. so let's run our file. We run our file, nothing displays. Why does it not display anything? Remember, I said PHP functions can only be executed when they are called. Now, how do you call a PHP function? To call a PHP function, use function name with braces. You simply use the function name with braces. If there are parameters inside, you enter the parameter, or function name parameter 1, parameter 2, up to parameters n. So that's how they call a function. Now we come back here. This does not display because we've not called anything. Now we want to display this function. We simply write show my message. That's the name of the function. We'll call show my message, and then we'll refresh. It says I am learning PHP functions. This is it. So we've written the function show my message. Let me compress this code a bit. Show my message, I am learning blah blah blah, and then it has displayed. When you just write, you just call it by the function name and parameter, you display. This is one type of a function. Now we also have another type of a function with parameter. This is the first one we saw, function with parameters. This one are called functions with parameters, and then this one are function with return variables. So now I want to write a function with parameter. Let's say function my name. Okay, let me just say my name, $name, for example, $name, and then we'll say echo my name is $name. Okay, right, BR. Now okay, we are done with this one, so let me just comment this function. we are done with it. So if we refresh our page, it's not showing anything because we've not called any function. Now at this point, we'll do echo my name, and what is your name? Let me say Paul Biya. And remember, it should be, if it is a string, it should be in quotes. If it is an integer, then you can still write it like that. Echo name Paul Biya. We refresh. My name is Paul Biya. We come again. We write echo name, echo my name, Hillary Clinton. We refresh. It says my name is Hillary Clinton. So it is, remember, we set this function of parameters. It simply has a function name, parameter 1, parameter 2, parameter n. It can be just one parameter, the code to execute, and then this is a code, echo my name is. So you just see here, we're not even supposed to do echo, we're just simply supposed to put my name. We're just simply supposed to put my name this, and then you echo. Yeah, so we're not supposed to put echo here. So just write my name Paul Biya, my name this, and then it's executing this function that has as parameter name. So you see, this is another way of executing this function. Now there's also this one, okay, here we did an example of one parameter. Now let's do an example of two parameters. Let's say function let's say student data. Okay, let me comment this line so that nothing should display. Student data, where we have parameter 1, student name, and then parameter 2, student date of birth. Now this function has two parameters, the student name and the student date of birth. Remember, I said here the function can have a function name, parameter 1, parameter 2, up to parameter n, depending on what you want. And then here we'll just simply say echo echo, let's say name was born in student date of birth. Okay, it should be dollar student name was born in dollar date of birth. So here it has parameter 1, parameter 2, and then inside these parameters should be, or these variables that are defined as this function parameter should be called within the function. They should not be called out of the function. It means you cannot write student name, you cannot write this statement out of this function. The function is being opened with a brace, and then you close the function with a brace. So you cannot write these parameters that are inside the out of the function. They will not work. So now if you want to echo student data, we simply write student data, which is the name of the function. It has two parameters. The first one, the student name, G Richard, comma, what? The student date of birth, 1990. And then we display our message. You see, G Richard was born in 1990. G Richard was born in 1990. We simply wrote the function name, the first parameter, which is the student name, and the second parameter, which is the student date of birth, and then we echo the message. Student name was born in date of birth, blah blah blah, and they will say student data, which is the name of this function, and then the first parameter, G Richard, and the second. We come the second parameter, student data, the first one, Manke for, let's say Manke for Paul, and then the second parameter, 2005. Put a semicolon, we register. And they say Manke for Paul was born in 2005. So that's how function with parameters work. Now we also see, we spoke about function with parameter, function with return variables. Now we have function with return variables, or let's say, let me be sure you people have really understood that function with parameters first. Let me do another example so you see. We have now function, we call this sum of numbers. Sum of numbers. We have the first number $x, the second number $y. Now we just simply say echo sum of $x plus $y is equal to okay, let me just say $z is equal to $x plus $y is equal to what? $z. So we have this now. It should echo this. So the sum, we want to take the sum of two numbers. The first number is this, the second number is this. Now we just created a third variable z, where z is x plus y, and then here we are saying echo sum of x plus y, where this x is taken to parameter, this parameter 1 in the variable, this y parameter 2 in the variable, and then this z is the sum of the first parameter and the second parameter. So if you run our program, nothing called, we simply write sum of the first number, let's say 5 and 9, and then we run our program. Sum of 5 plus 9, let's say 5 plus 9 is 14. If we enter the second number, let's say 10 plus 40 or 10 plus 47, we run. 10 plus 47 is 57. So this is another example explaining functions with parameter. Now let's see the one of returning functions. Which one is it? Function with return variables. Now we simply use function with return variables using the return key. We'll talk of return key is something like this. Simply use the return keyword. We use a return keyword, simply returns a function with a variable, with a return variable. Now let's come back to this previous example, sum of numbers. Now we have $x, $y, and they want to use that return stuff to then find it. Now in a particular code, in every file, you should not have the same function, the name of the same function twice. It means we cannot still create a function with this same name. If not, you have a problem. So we simply want to create a new function. Let's say function sum of two numbers. Let's call it function for sum of two numbers, $x, $y. $x, $y, those are the functions with two different variables. Then we'll create a third variable. $z is $x plus $y, and then we do what? We return $z. Now look at this very well. We've created another function, sum of two numbers. The first variable $x, the second one $y. Then there's a third variable now, $z, which is parameter 1 plus parameter 2, and then we return z. Now let's launch our code. Nothing displays. Now if we want to echo it, we echo. Let me just show something. Sum of $x and $y is equal to is equal to, now look at this very well. We are not going to say it's equal to $z. We are going to say it's equal to what? Sum of two numbers. You write now the two numbers. You want 4 and 49, which is how many? 53. Sum of this and this is, so we try. Sum of x and y is 53. Okay, I see where we have to define this x and y. It has not been defined. Okay, let's say sum of 4 and 49. Okay, let's just say sum of something like this. Sum of something is equal to 4 and 49. You run the answer. Sum of is this, or we come, let's say 14 and 10. We refresh, 24. So here you simply write the sum of the first variable, the second variable. We are not going to write sum of x again, because at this point we've returned z, where z takes into parameter this and the first parameter 1 and then the second parameter 2. Or we can simply echo, or we can just simply echo this without writing all of that. We echo this and then you simply display our result. Now there's also, let's do another example. Now remember here, at this point we used echo. Why did we use echo? Now let's try something. We don't want to use echo, we just want to put sum of. What happens? Nothing displays. Why does it not display? It's simply because this one has been considered like a variable. That's why we use echo here, to simply display the information. If we use echo, it displays. If we don't use echo, nothing displays. Now if we assign this to a variable, let's say $PO is equal to this, and then we refresh, nothing shows, and then we do echo $PO, you realize it shows. So we simply use echo here to display all of this, because inside the function it has not been displayed. That's why we used echo there. Okay, so let's take another example now with function of return variables. Now I want to write a function to calculate the sum of the first n numbers, small arithmetic, the sum of the first n numbers. So here we call the name of the function sum of first n. Let's just call it sum of first n $n, where you can, maybe if you want to look for the sum of the first 1000 numbers, you just write 1000, sum of first 1000, sum of first 2000, sum of first 3, and so on. Now to write the function like basic arithmetic, you go back, you just try to read through those PHP books I've shared, go through them. Yeah, like that's why I even give you people this plan, such that you read functions, so that when you follow the tutorial, things that you don't understand, you try to follow. Because when we talk like the sum of first numbers, the first thing, let me do basic arithmetic so you understand this one very well. Now when we talk of, we want to calculate the sum of the first 5 numbers, let n be 5. Now let's do basic arithmetic. You see here, sorry for those of you that already know this, I'm sorry to waste your time, but I really want everybody to understand these concepts. Now we'll talk of, let's just take the basic arithmetic. It's not even up to the level of mathematics. Let's take basic arithmetic. Now if they ask you to look for the sum of the first 5 numbers, what do? You have the first 5 numbers. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? You already know in your mind, you have the numbers that are 5. So what you do is you simply say it's equals to the first number plus the second number, which is 2, plus the third number, which is 3, plus the fourth number, plus the fifth number, and then you have the sum. So note, with the first thing we have is we have this n, which is the number, the range I've given you, 5. Now at this point, the first number here should be considered as the sum. So we have a variable sum which is equal to the first number, but at this point, since we are doing addition, we don't know that sum yet, so we assign it to 0. Now since we are doing what? Addition, because you have to look for the sum of the first number. Sum, addition, sum is equal to addition. Now look at what happened here. Already we know that we have 5 numbers. Remember, we said in our previous tutorials under loops, we said you can use the for loop when you know the number of iterations, the number of times you have to go. Now in this case, we know we have to go 5 times. But what is 5? 5 is n. So mathematically, or should I say programmatically, we know we have to go n times. And if you have to go n times, you need a beginning, you need a point where you have to start. So if we know where we have to start and where we have to end, we can simply use a loop in this case. That takes us back to the concepts of loops. That's why I emphasize that you need to understand what we do or what we've done in the past before we proceed. That's why I wasted time for you people to understand the first 4 tutorials. Now, since in this case we already know where we have to start and where we have to end, we can maybe like start by using our for loop. Or say for $I is equal to 0. We are starting at I. $I is less than, where are we ending? We are ending at n. And then you notice that at this point, since we are looking at the sum of the first 5 numbers, we have 1, which is the first sum, plus 2, plus 3. So at each point we are incrementing by what variable? By 1. So we take now by $I plus plus, and then we come. So this is just already for our for loop. Now at this point you realize that we were taking this sum which is equal to the previous sum. So let me do it. You realize I'll have 1 plus 2 which is equal to 3, right? Then at this point I will have 3 plus 3 which is equal to 6. So we are here. Then at this point I'll have 6 plus 4 which is equal to 10. We are already here. Then at this point now, we have 10 plus 5, which is equal to 15. Now if you sum this, 5 plus 4 is 9, plus 12 plus 3 12, plus 2 14, plus 1 15. So this is simply the concept. So at this point, we are taking back that initial sum. So at this point, our initial sum is the variable sum. So take $sum is equal to what? Is equal to this initial sum plus this variable, this new variable that we've gotten, which is I. So it's equal to $sum plus $I. So we have it now inside our sum. And then what are we returning? We are returning $sum. We are returning now the sum that has been done, that has been calculated. Now let's look at this. I believe this was basic arithmetic. For those of you that already know, I'm really sorry wasting your time, but I needed this concept to be understood. Now we want to echo, since we knew that the sum of the first 5 numbers was 15. Sum of first n. We want to calculate the sum of the first 5 numbers. Oh, sure, I'm mistaken something. Okay, it should be strictly less than or equal to, because if I put less than here, it means that it should be less than n, which is 5. It should not include 5 inside. So we put less than or equal to n, we should include that 5 inside 15, because if we put just less than, it simply means at this point it's not including, so it's ending at this point. So the sum of the first, this number is this. Now if we want to calculate the sum of the first 10 numbers, math teachers, you already know the sum of the first n numbers now. 55. If you want to calculate the sum of the first 9 numbers, you already know, and so on. If you want to look for the sum of the first 1000 numbers, that's the sum of the sum of the first 1000 numbers. So you want to do 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 up to plus 1000. That's what you're going to have. See, very simple now. Now let's take another case of a function. A function to do the sum of the product of the first n numbers. Let's say function for sum of the products of the first n numbers. In this case, is simply if n is equal to 5. In this case, we'll simply have 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5. That thing is simply like the factorial stuff. Yeah, sum of the product of the first n numbers. They usually call it factorial. Yeah. So if we have to have this function, we'll call it sum of products of n. Let's just call it like this, where we have our $n. Now let's look at this. It has a different conception, a different way of handling the situation than the first one. Now this one, simply we're dealing with addition, where we initialize, or we first of all did it on a piece of paper, and then we try to convert it now to a program. Now with this one, we have our n is 5. What do? We take, since we are looking for the sum of the products of the first n numbers, we know the first number is 1, so it should be 1 times the next number, which is 2. And so at this point we should have 1 times 2, which is equal to 2. Here we have 2 times 3, which is equal to 6. Here we have 6 times 4, which is equal to 24. Here we have 24 times 5, which is equal to 24. 24 is 120. Let me see, 120. Math teacher, 24 times 5, 120. Okay, 24 times 5 is 120. So you see that the sum of the products of the first 5 numbers will give you 120. So if we calculate it here, we should have 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5. So we should have 120 there. So at this point, look, this one has a different approach. Here the first number should be, or the first number is 1, right? And then we are taking this 1 times the second number. So here we need an initial variable. So here let's just say $init. Initial variable should be, okay, let's try to imitate that first part, which is 0. Let's just try to imitate this one, and then you see what we'll do. Now we know we have to end at 5, so we can still use our for loop for $int I, or $i is equal to 0, $i is less than or equal to 5, $i plus plus. Now let's try to imitate that one. Is $init. $init is equal to $init. Now since we're doing the addition, somebody will just say no, let's replace the addition by multiplication. $init times $i. Then here we return $init, init like for initial variable, and then we'll echo sum of products of n, which is 5. Now look at this and look at the answer. The answer is 0. It gives you 0. Why does it give why does this give us 0? Now for those of you that already understand these concepts, please pardon me again, I just need it to be understood. Now we have our 0 here, and then we take init is 0, so at this point we have 0 times or 0 is equal to 0. 0 is equal to 0 times I is 0. You have 0, so your answer here will be 0. We'll move on to the next line. So our new init is 0. Now the value of I should increment by 1, so the value of I should increment by 1, so I now is 1, and then our init, which is 0, should be equal to the previous init, which is 0 times I, which is 1. So at any point in time you always have 0 times I, which the answer will always be 0. That's why you realize we had 0 here. So here the approach we are going to use is first of all to set initialization to 1. If we set initialization to 1, now how does it execute itself? Our init here is 0. Now we have our init is 1, so we have now 1, which is 1 is equal to 1 times I. 1 times I is equal to 0. Now we move now to the next. Our init is 0, so our answer here is 0, which is equal to our init. So if our init is 0, which is equal to, now the next one is 2 times I, which is 1. Already you see, you already have an error. So what we need to do is simply eliminate this init from being 0. It should be 1. So now if we have this as 1, it means our initial value is 1. So we should have now 1 is equal to, init is 1, 1 is equal to 1 times, here what do we have? I is 1, 1 times 1, which is equal to 1. So this 1 here is our init variable. So come now, the value of this increment, we have now the new 1. It has to verify, is I less than or equal to 5? Yes. So 1 now should be equal to our init. Our init here is 1, is equal to 1 times the value of this I has incremented to 2, which is equal to 1 times 2, it is 2. So our new init is 2. It counts, our new init is 2. 2 now is equal to what? Init, which is 2 times the new value of I has incremented to 1, 2 times 3, which is equal to 6. It's equal to our new initial variable, which is 6. 6 now is equal to what? Is equal to I has incremented to 3. Our initial value is 6. 6 times this, I has incremented from 3 to 4. 6 times 3 is 4, which is equals to 24. It verifies, is 4 less than or equal to 5? Yes. This is our init. It continues. Our new init is 24. 24 is equal to what? 24. That's it. 24 is equal to 24 plus I, or 24 times I. 24 times the new I now is equal to 5, which is 120. So our new 20 is, our new initial variable is 120. So it verifies again. We have 120 here is init. Is I climbs to 6. Is 6 less than or equal to 5? No. So the program stops here and then executes 120. So if we have the sum of the first 5 now, we execute our program, they should be having 120 there. If you want the sum of the products of the first 20 numbers, but I'm sure I'm having an error here. Sorry, here should be n. Sorry, here should be $n, because n is what we are taking into parameter here. Here is an error. So you have the sum of the first blah blah should be that. If you want the sum of the first 5, you have that. the sum of the first 10, you have that, and so on. So that simply explains the other part, another example. Now let me do a last example of functions. Now let me say the function that has to do with string function. We'll call the name count letters $data. Now this one is, simply has to do with strings, where we have a string. We call this one function to count the number of characters in a string. Now there is a function in PHP called the string length. Now if you put your mouse pointer on it, or if you double click on it and then you put it's simply okay, let me come back to it. $data. Let me come back to it and explain. This one does not have something, so that stuff. So anyway, so we just simply want to return the length of the information. That's the length of the information that's inside, and then we echo count letters. The letters should be, let's say Cameroon, or let me just say data. We know data, the length of data is what? 1 2 3 4. So let's refresh our page. 4. The length of go, we know go is what? 2. The length of Cameroon 2 4 6 8, and so on. So it simply returns the length of that stuff. So that's all with respect to functions in PHP. So this tutorial ends here, and then we'll look at the next one.